Welcome and hello to everyone. My name is Christine Minota, and I'm the Executive Director of the Roseman Institute here at UCSF. Before I start today, I'd like to let you know of a few exciting news or program that we're planning for 2022. First, the application are open for the RISE program. UCSF Roseman RISE offer entrepreneurs specialized mentorship, networking opportunities, and a community of fellow innovators. The selected entrepreneurs will gain access to 3 months of one-on-one interaction with experienced mentor from our network and beyond. So this program, we partner with Oliver Wyman, AbbVie, as well as Perkins Coie. We strongly believe that mentorship and supportive communities are essential to a growing company, and that by leveraging our community, we can provide you with the resources you need to succeed. So apply by February 9th. So it's just around the corner. You can check it out in our website. It's at rosemaninstitute.org/programs. And you saw the announcement. We launched our startup operations support, which is a resource hub that connects early stage health tech entrepreneurs with UCSF Roseman Institute partners, offering a range of services and support. You can get legal services like incorporation services for free. And what we learned from a lot of the entrepreneurs out there, that it's good to have this done correctly from the very beginning. It takes more work and more money to undo and correct. So get the right service from the right team. And you can get more information by going to our website at therosemaninstitute.org/resources. And last but not least, I also want to give you a heads up for the 2022 Roseman Innovators. Application will be open on February 2nd. As you might know, that prior years innovators have benefited from this program, from access to early stage funding, in-kind services, mentorship, and being part of the great community that are passionate about making an impact on improving the quality of life. And one of our partners for the last 3 years is the VA Medical Center, where selected companies may have the opportunity to pilot or work with the VA hospital. So check it out. It's on our homepage at rosemaninstitute.org. And with that, let's get started. I want to introduce you to our speaker today, Amy West, who is the head of U.S. Digital Transformation and Innovation at Novo Nordisk. Amy leads Novo Nordisk U.S. In identifying digital opportunities and breakthrough innovation that enhance patient healthcare experience and outcome. She oversees opportunities through Novo Nordisk internal incubator, as well as with partnership, including startups, entrepreneur, and third-party accelerator incubators to test pilots and scale viable solution. She has over 25 years of strategic marketing and business development experience across a broad range of disciplines, including digital and commercial innovation. So today, Amy will talk about how to unlock healthcare innovation with emerging technology. We see unprecedented level of innovation in emerging technology in the last decade. It has caused a new way how we view and interact with the world and solve problems as individual, business, and community. So healthcare is definitely impacted by technology, and it remains ripe for innovation. So Amy will provide insight on how to navigate the ripe innovation landscape in healthcare and what you need to do when developing new solutions. With that, Amy, take it away. And one more thing before I forgot, if you have any question, Amy will take your question along the way during her talk by going to the Q&A box and type your question there. So thank you.
Great. And thank you all. I'm really honored to have this opportunity to speak with you all. And thank you for that really great introduction. And so I'm just going to take a second here and pull up my slides. Okay, I think I got it. Thank you. So thanks again for the very kind introduction. And I'm really honored to have the opportunity to share my perspective on how emerging technology can be a key component to unlocking and driving healthcare innovation. And you provided a little, Christine, you provided some background on my experience and some of my credentials, but I wanted to just add to that a little bit, a personal note that I am very passionate about engaging in healthcare, especially from the patient side, and making sure that we're really finding solutions that are meeting the needs of our patient customers. That's critical. We can't just apply medication and technology. It's got to be relevant to the end user. And, you know, being a patient myself and having lots of family and friends who are patients at times, you know, I strongly believe that getting access to pharmacotherapies and traditional interventions, it's very critical. But again, medication alone isn't enough. And sometimes it's very hard to also get access to the coordinated care that you need. And so that's why I am so excited to be playing in the health innovation space, because this is an opportunity to really embrace and apply these emerging technologies that can enable the ability to go beyond that proverbial pill and deliver the experiences that positively influence patient understanding, engagement, their own health decision making in a very personalized and relevant way that we've not been able to do until these innovations have come through. And it gives us also the opportunity to really and truly better understand patients as people first and deliver these holistic interventions that, along with medication, we can marry the science with the human being and the technology to deliver and achieve better quality of life and improved health outcomes. So that's what is really very exciting to me, you know, as a user of these innovations, as a patient myself. So to start the flow of the conversation, I just wanted to share that I'm going to start out with just some overarching data points about some of the challenges that we have with healthcare today, and then go into a discussion around some of the interesting emerging technologies that hold significant promise to address some of those challenges that we see. And then I'd like to end up with a little bit of a case study to showcase how we at Novo Nordisk leveraged emerging technology to solve a customer problem and deliver a solution that has been working very well, and it's working well for our patients, but also working well for us to understand our patients even better. So with that, I wanted to showcase some points here that I think we know that chronic and autoimmune diseases are increasing at a staggering rate. And the example that I have here is specific to diabetes, primarily because it highlights an area that I have a lot of experience with, and it's a very large therapeutic area for our diabetes for our portfolio at Novo Nordisk. But it's also, you know, a global problem, and it has devastating impacts across the world on quality of life and total cost of care and outcomes. And so these are global numbers here, and you'll see that today over 537 million people have diabetes, and it's estimated that by 2045, 783 million will have diabetes globally. But some of the things the data points below this highlight that of that, you know, 537 million today, only half of those people actually know they have it. The rest are undiagnosed or unaware. And of people, 7 in 10 people with diabetes who have been diagnosed and are treating are not achieving the desired outcomes that we hope to see. And very hard to hear is that 4 million people, or 4 million deaths, are caused every year by diabetes. So those are significant numbers. And when you think about the interventions that we have on the market in the pharmacotherapy space, it's really hard to see that these are rather poor data points when it comes to managing the disease. And there are many reasons for suboptimal health outcomes, but I'd say that the elephant in the room here is that medication non-adherence remains a significant and costly barrier to improving health outcomes and quality of life. And it's the elephant in the room because we have all these amazing medications and interventions that have been on the market for a long time and available, but they're not being optimally used. And now these data points are US specific. And so what we see is we have over $1 billion annually in excess hospitalizations, 125,000 annual deaths associated with diabetes, and up to over 300, almost $300 billion in avoidable healthcare costs associated with non-adherence and medication non-adherence. And when you think about it from an experiential standpoint, it's really poor across all the players, the patients, the providers, and the payers, because we're not able to access and use the medication the way we would like to optimally. We're not feeling well, we're having bad experiences, creating frustration, and satisfaction is very low. And from a business standpoint, when being a pharma manufacturer, if these suboptimal non-adherence rates impact your ability to invest in the future of your R&D, because you're getting lower ORIs and you're not able to get your therapeutics out optimally. So it's a tough situation, but I think it's important to think to realize that when we think about healthcare and wellness, it takes more than medicine to drive change and defeat diabetes, as well as other serious chronic diseases. And we have to be thinking about those opportunities more holistically. And that's why, again, it's very exciting that these emerging technologies can really play a role to deliver on that. And health technology really encompasses the devices, the medicines, the vaccines, the processes and procedures, and the systems designed to streamline healthcare operations and lower costs and enhance the quality of care. And ultimately, the opportunity and the goal with this tech innovation is that we can treat chronic disease on a much broader scale, and thus, remediate the negative outcomes more broadly than we've been able to do up until now. It's also a very, very hot area, emerging technology, when you think about the level of investment that we've seen in the past, and particularly over the last year in 2021. US-based digital health startups brought in almost $30 billion in 2021, which was almost doubling the total investment the year prior, which is incredible. And investors and market watchers they're not going to commit to say we're going to see the doubling of that this year, but definitely that positive momentum is well within sight. So, what are these emerging technologies? And obviously, there are many, many different tech areas depending on your reference point. But to focus the conversation today, the ones I've highlighted here have been identified as some of the most promising health technologies that were invested in 2021. And again, that momentum is not likely to go away. And there's great potential across all of these to improve health performance, efficiency, security, and again, support the person on a very individual and personalized basis. And so I think it's also worth noting here too that other industries like manufacturing, gaming, and retail and finance, some of these aren't really necessarily what they would consider emerging technology because they're already very embedded in them. But healthcare does remain a bit of a laggard to adopt emerging technologies in light of the regulatory environments and the health data privacy considerations. So we tend to be a little bit of behind some of these other industries. But again, the investment is there. The proof is in following the money, and we're seeing that continue to intensify. So to jump into some of the specifics here, some of you may be very familiar with these, but when we think about AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning, it's using software algorithms to complete tasks that usually require some type of human intervention or intelligence. And from a healthcare perspective, huge opportunity is actually becoming a necessary tool as opposed to a promise or an opportunity. It's becoming a tool because it enables organizations to analyze huge volumes of structured and unstructured data from many, many different sources like clinical trials, EHRs, patient-reported data, and facilitate better decision making, creating these efficiencies and these insights that otherwise would take a long time or might actually be impossible if a human being were to do it. And so these, natural language processing, machine learning, these other sophisticated computation tools are excellent at searching through these massive volumes of information to identify patterns and correlations, and provide insights that can predict potential future outcomes, and enables the analysis of really this unlimited amount of data without being inconsistent, and also enables it to be unbiased, which is really, really important when you think about the fact that these tools do have to be trained. And a lot of the trainers to date have been male. So the unbiased piece is going to be really important to make sure that we're getting output that is going to be equitable. And we think about healthcare specifically, there's a lot of opportunity to mitigate risk of preventable medical scenarios in critical ways. So we think about using AI to identify people at high risk so that we can provide earlier and faster interventions to get them the care that they need. In very simple terms, getting people, providing them with automatic reminders to take their medicine at certain times of the day, and creating a way to make it easy for them to stay adherent to their therapies. And also, really, because of the ability to process the information on an individual level, we can deliver personalized interventions, which is what everybody is really optimally looking for, because none of us wants to be seen as a population or a cohort. So a lot of opportunity in this space. And from a data standpoint, again, a lot of these things are also interconnected, but from a data standpoint, in healthcare, data is growing and flowing across the healthcare systems faster than ever before. And that's largely due to the digitalization of patient health records, and the fact that, we're all wearing smartwatches, and we're using apps to track our diet or our activity. People are using connected insulin pumps. And so that data is being collected from all these disparate sources. And patients are also not necessarily beholden to one physician or one hospital system. So there are different localities that are capturing data, and it all, we want to try to pull that all together so that it makes sense and it's consistent. So data interoperability to access, exchange, and interpret and cooperatively use the data across these disparate sources and sets, and create that portable health record is really, really important. And people, there's a huge move to making that happen. But of course, that is extremely complex and extremely difficult. And a lot of challenges remain currently that are being worked through, but things like accessibility, where, we don't necessarily feel comfortable giving our health data to a tech player or a non-traditional healthcare organization. The data quality, the data that's being captured, if it's going to be intermingled, it has to be cleansed. It has to be set up in a structure that it can be received and pulled into, an overall consolidated record. And the ability to do that, those processes, they're not, up to capacity yet. So there's a lot of need there too. We're also seeing a lot of physician burnout with data capture. I think we've all been in the doctor's office where we're having our appointment, the doctor's, talking to us, but looking at the screen, typing data in, and we're losing that connection, that human connection, and the physicians are very frustrated by that that intervention and having to input data instead of spend time really talking and understanding their patient. And then, of course, the privacy and ethics concerns around personal health data use, and we're not necessarily comfortable having our information used for research purposes that we're not necessarily aware of, or other things that might be going on with our information. and the permissions, the standards, and the anonymization processes to protect all of that aren't necessarily in place yet. So there is that desire to be able to pull all these disparate data sets together to have one picture, but still a lot of work to be done to make that happen. And that's where we think about blockchain can potentially play that role to create that security and exchange of the information. Blockchain being that distributed electronic ledger that facilitates that secure transfer of medical information from one entity to another, that can prevent any sort of concern, that can prevent the fraud or the identity theft, and support the personal identification security. But from a from a health data standpoint, there's obviously a lot of opportunity with blockchain, but blockchain also can support other areas of healthcare. And when we think about supply chain transparency and making sure that we can track everything in a very safe and secure way, it's great for that type of purpose, as well as remote monitoring and things like healthcare professional credential verification. So again, a great area to safeguard and secure and transfer sensitive data. Moving on to another area of emerging tech, IoT, or the Internet of Things. Again, depending on where you sit, this may or may not be considered emerging, but it's the idea of using a connected network of objects and exchange data, that collect and exchange data. So things like wearables, environmental sensors, mobile apps, remote patient monitoring, voice technology, the smart home environments, the connected home, the smart home, the connected car, the connected cities. There's a lot going on to leverage the environment, leverage the data that's being created in the everyday environment. And this is where we see a lot of non-traditional players, healthcare players like Amazon and Comcast, getting into that smart home space when they're looking to create these home as health hub or home as hospital environments. So if you're someone who wants to age in place, you can do so safely because your home is connected, and their technologies can support and track and capture that information and share it with your caregivers, your loved ones, and your treatment teams. So a lot of really cool stuff going on with IoT as it relates to those customer-centric home environments. From a healthcare professional standpoint, it's again, from a remote patient monitoring standpoint, it enables a window for the physician to get real-time, real-world information about their patients that they might not have had before. So it supports that remote patient monitoring and can help support interventions to avoid any sort of events or things that require maybe a hospitalization or an emergency room visit. So a lot going on there. We also look at chatbots. So again, chatbots leverage data and some of the machine learning aspects that you see here, but it's been interesting to see, again, the transfer of chatbot technology from other industries coming into healthcare. They're usually embedded in websites, mobile apps, or digital platforms that can help patients get real-time information they're looking for really quickly, instead of having to be on the phone waiting or get passed along to different people to talk to if they're calling a health system or their doctor's office. It's very convenient to get information they need quickly. They can schedule appointments, and the chatbot, depending on how it's designed, can actually have that personal feel. It could be just a Q&A input, or it could be something like you see here in this thumbnail of an actual avatar. And I'm going to be talking about this in my case study a little bit later, but this is actually an avatar chatbot virtual concierge that we use at Novo Nordisk to meet the needs of our customers. But it's great because, again, it's real time. It's very scalable. She can work with a lot of people at one time, whereas a human being cannot do that. And it also provides, there's a level of personalization, and there's a level of human touch there, but there's also the anonymous factor, which people also appreciate if you're dealing with sensitive information or sensitive disease areas. There's a comfort with that. So a lot of really good stuff happening with that technology. And then augmented reality and virtual reality, another really interesting emerging tech area for healthcare. Again, very heavily used in the gaming industry before getting into healthcare. But it's, the virtual reality technology, creates this entirely immersive experience that gets you out of the real world and creates this sort of three-dimensional universe based on, when you're wearing the glasses. It takes you out of the real world and creates this new world. Thus, why it's been so popular with gaming. But from a healthcare standpoint, if you leverage that technology to address things like anxiety and stress and loneliness and depression, it has the ability to alleviate some of those things based on the experience that it provides through the VR. And we've also seen a lot of use with that with PTSD patients as well, or with people going, pre-surgery and post-surgery to, again, alleviate that anxiety of going into or coming out of surgery. And with augmented reality, it is different than VR in that it doesn't take you out of the real world. It keeps you in the real world, just enhances it with, projected imagery to create a learning environment or an engagement environment to advance some type of healthcare support. So we're seeing a lot of usage there with medical trainings and surgeries and different ways to look at the human body with enhancements. Excuse me for 1 second. I need a little sip of water. I'm getting a little, talking too much makes my throat dry. So again, really cool stuff with the virtual and augmented reality technologies. And then you look at 3D bioprinting, another really super cool area. And for me, I'm not a clinician, and so this is very sci-fi to me. And it's fascinating that these 3D bioprinting it's the utilization of 3D printing like techniques to combine cells, growth factors, and other biomaterials to fabricate biomedical parts or body parts. With the aim being to imitate natural tissue characteristics. And the process for doing this is not unlike traditional 3D printing. In the case of bioprinting, a digital model of the tissues has to be created, and then careful attention needs to be paid to the resolution and the matrix structure, because the material used to print the organ is quite literally living cells. It's called bio ink. So that then from there they need to test the organ's functionality and so on from there. But it's really incredible. They're actually using live tissue to build this 3D model. And again, it seems very sci-fi. It's still in development. It's still in the early stages, but it is very real. And some of this technology is already in clinical testing. 3D printed ears, corneas, bones, skin are all being in clinical testing trials for 3D bioprinting. And also even in the diabetes space, artificial or the 3D printed pancreases. If this is something that can be built and is successful, it can eradicate potentially the incidence of diabetes. So it's just incredible. And the longer term for a solution for this technology is that if you can 3D print organs, you can then reduce the shortage that we see in organ donation and things like that, as well as eliminating the need for animal testing on organs and things like that. So really, really cool technology there. It's still earlier phases, but it is actually, it's real and it's happening. And then the last area I've highlighted here is around robotics. And again, used very heavily in other industries. But there's a huge opportunity here when it comes to patient care. They're currently being used to do things like disinfect rooms in hospitals and exam rooms to make sure that the environments are safe for the patients and the caregivers. They work in laboratories to take samples and distribute them and organize them. Pharmacies are using them to dispense and distribute medications. And there are some really cool ones also that are sort of these gears and wires robots that are used to support people with help paraplegics as they are doing exercises with their legs. They have these robots that can assist and actually administer physical therapy. And from a personal assistant standpoint, when we think about the idea of the smart home environment or aging in place environment, seniors who want to stay in their own home but might not have the mobility or the ability to get around, if you have a companion robot that can support a lot of the needs for you, if you aren't necessarily as mobile as you'd like to be, they can dispense your medications, they can monitor your movements, and some of them can even respond to human speech. So they come in, some of them are very humanoid, some of them are pet oriented, or some of them are just very robotic like, but there's a lot of exploration being done in that space. And again, I think what's nice about that is that it really can help address some of the real pain points that people have, where they don't want to have to not live in their home, or they want to be able to do things without other people coming in and helping them, and the robotics can really help play that role. So a lot of really interesting emerging technology that's got a great role to play in health innovation. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't just mention the fact that COVID has obviously spurred an acceleration into investment in these emerging tech areas to support accessibility, remote management, self-care, and and I think as we look at the fact that COVID is still a real thing into our third year almost now, that's not going to go away. And so the future of a lot of our healthcare innovation from a technology standpoint, I think, is definitely going to be accelerated by COVID-19. So before I step into the case study, I was just going to ask Christine, I don't know if there are any questions coming through. I can't see the Q&A, but does it make sense to take a pause here?
Yeah, there's 3 questions. Let me see. The first question comes from Dana. I would love to hear more about AI innovations in clinical research. How can we leverage existing historical data to accelerate clinical trials, be it external control arms or digital twins?
Yeah, I mean, so, and I should also say too that the emerging technology that I shared, it's not everything. There's certainly a lot more, and you could go in really deep in a lot of these areas. I think one of the really cool things about, from a clinical trial standpoint, is that it enables, it's going to support, I'd say AI, as well as some of the remote patient monitoring technologies, support the ability to identify and bring in a more diverse patient population. And because I think in the past we've had, we've had a tendency to have more Caucasians in clinical trials, and we don't have that diversity of other populations. So AI can help us identify how we can, get access to these broader groups of people, and the remote technologies can help us keep them engaged if access to a site is difficult, or if there are other limitations for a variety of reasons. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity there with those technologies to support that diversity of population patient engagement.
Okay, that's good. Let me see.
Also, the other thing, the digital twin idea too is spot on as well. I mean, if you can create a digital twin, there's a lot that can be done as well that doesn't necessarily require actually a human being. It just might, we'd have to obviously rethink how the clinical trials are reviewed and approved, but huge opportunity for digital twins there as well.
Okay, right. Thank you. Next question. How do you make this technology available to all people? You mentioned smart homes and other initiatives which are limited in scope globally to many people. How can digital play a role across a broader scale to address a larger part of the market?
So it's a great question. And, I think those are the types of questions that we need to keep asking. I will say you got to start somewhere though. And when you think about innovation in general, the methodologies, it's start small and iterate. And over time, you've got to prove out the small thing to get to the scale. And so that's where you have to start, but you have to always keep asking that question: how can we democratize the access? And that's where you also have to take things into consideration, like the social determinants of health, the environment in which people are living, their education levels, their cultures, and how they're able to access technology, healthcare. What are the stigmas involved? So it goes beyond, it goes beyond just how do we extend the technology. It's all these other human factors that become a role as well.
Okay. The next question is, to enable AI machine learning plus data, don't we need deeper data? In this context, where do you see proteomics is, for example, LCMS-based proteomics scalable?
I'm gonna be really honest. I am not an expert in that level of technology. I'm probably not the best person. I don't have enough insight into that. But again, I would just work with your network, have those conversations, and think about what's the problem that you're trying to solve. And I would say that actually kind of leads into this next part of the conversation, because as you're working with your technology and developing it, make sure that you are really solving a problem and not creating a wonderful solution that really doesn't have a demand, because that happens. And it's really important. That's why I think this case study that I want to share is really important. And I think this this quote that you see here really captures that sentiment. And this is something that's really stuck with me. It came from Peter Diamandis, who, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a futurist, and he's the co-founder and executive chairman of Singularity University, which is an organization that's focused on the future and they're committed to solving the global 11 wicked problems of the world. One of them being healthcare and healthcare access, and making it available to everyone in a democratized way. And he always says, become enamored of the problem, not the solution. Otherwise, you're going to have a solution that potentially has no value in the market. So really think about those types of questions and those challenges with, what's the problem that I'm trying to solve, and whose problem is it? And so the case study that I want to share here It comes from Novo Nordisk, and it was something I was involved with a couple of years ago, and built this with my team. Um, we were noticing that in our patient support, our diabetes patient support platform, it's called Cornerstones for Care. So it's a web platform and a mobile platform, and it has a lot of information about diabetes, how to get medication, health and wellness information. It's a very robust site, and we have always had a lot of engagement with it. But at one point, we were noticing this significant spike in utilization between the hours of 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. across the different time zones in the US. And so it was like, what's that saying to us? And it, when we think about what was the problem that we were trying to solve, people are up at night because they're looking for something. They're searching for something, and we're not sure if they're finding it. Is this meeting their needs? But why are they doing it at this time? What does that mean? So in our effort to solve the problem, we wanted to use and employ design innovation problem-solving methodologies, and really put ourselves into the shoes of the customer, so that as we were moving forward, we were going to truly solve, we knew who they were, and we were going to solve their problem, and make sure that we weren't coming up with some knee-jerk reaction or an assumption that wasn't really going to fit the bill and isn't going to solve the problem, and then we just keep trying things that don't work. So we leveraged an approach that really, again, like design thinking methodologies, where we're really trying to put that empathetic hat on and understand who our customers are, and then quickly and rapidly test different options. And so as we jumped into the customer problem, we wanted to understand, who are these folks who are engaging at this hour of the night? And we developed a persona, Rita. And Rita is a 38-year-old single mother of two, with two kids that are 6 and 4. She works full time. She's taking night school classes and hopes that she'll get a promotion with this advanced degree. She cares for her homebound father, and she hopes to travel to all 7 continents during her lifetime. And she manages chronic disease. She has type 2 diabetes, but she only does it after the kids are in bed. And, coming from the traditional pharma standpoint, people who have diabetes, we think, oh, this is your total focus. This is what you need to be doing. But that's not life. Rita's, the mom with school and all these other things going on. And she does have diabetes, but that doesn't take up her whole day. In fact, it only takes up a couple hours at night, because that's the only time she has to really focus on herself and try to find answers that she needs, because she needs them. And also she's starting to be worried, and she's not sleeping at night. So Rita is not unusual. There are a lot of Ritas out there. So how do we help Rita get what she needs? And so again, as we did a deep dive into our customer's problem to solve, we tossed our Novo Nordisk hat assumptions. We went directly to our customers to understand what their perspective was. And we saw from this issue that we saw, the problem beginning to really take shape. And we saw that, people are willing to come to us, meaning they're looking for information about their diabetes management, and they'll go to a pharmaceutical manufacturer. They trust us, but they want a personalized experience. They do not want to be treated like a population or a cohort. I'm a mom with kids, I'm in school, and I've got a lot on my plate. You need to understand me in order for me to be able to really credibly believe you. They're on tight timelines. They don't have a lot of time to spend on themselves. And so they're visiting our website after business hours, because that's the only time they have to do it. And when they do that, they can't talk to, a customer care representative or a coach. So they're having to look by themselves. And customers are fully formed humans with goals, fears, and desires of their own, and they don't think of themselves as patients. They are people, and they want to be treated as a holistic individual, as a human being. Based on these observations, we asked ourselves, so how might we easily provide our customers with the information they need in a personalized way after hours? And we took inspiration from emerging technology to see, is there a modality that we could potentially leverage to achieve this? So things like, we looked at chatbots. We saw what the retail and the auto industry was doing using this technology. We looked at voice technologies with Alexa and Google Home, and we looked at care coaches and concierge care, that virtual support, to see, is this something of value as well? And is it something that we can test out? And from there, we began to sketch a variety of different options for how we might create an intervention that appealed to our customer, that would make it easier and meet their needs. And we got in front of them with a variety of options. And based on their feedback, we refined and built a minimum viable prototype product to beta test, again, with real customers, to continue the learning. And over this iterative process that we took to refine different potential solutions, the ultimate result became Sophia, our artificially intelligent interactive virtual assistant, who is available for our customers 24/7, anytime they want to engage with us. She is powered by machine learning, and she's able, based on her conversations that she has with people through the platform, through the chatbot technology, she's able to help them get the information that they're looking for faster. She's able to understand how they are looking for information, what they're looking for, and how they're talking about it. So what's the language that they're using to search for this information? And by doing that, Sophia gets smarter and more intelligent. We as Novo Nordisk get more insight, more real-time, real-world insight about our customers that we can use to continue to optimize the experience and the engagement and serve our customers better. And it's been a really, it's been a great way to, understand the problem and bring a solution that is meeting the needs for our customer, but also giving us the insights that we need to continue to fuel the experience. The other thing that's interesting about Sophia is that if you see her here, she's an avatar. She's an avatar sort of visual. She's a composite of a number of different composites that we had put together to see if people actually wanted that type of a visual when they're engaging with this technology. And what came out is that this very realistic, lifelike avatar was preferred over the more caricaturish look, because it makes people feel like they're actually engaging with a human being, even though they know they are not. It's clear that they are not, but they appreciate that feel. It creates a connection for them, but they also feel secure because it's anonymous. It's that anonymous factor, which makes them feel comfortable sharing information. So it's been a really interesting journey as we have continued to apply this technology with our customers. And over time, we don't stop. We're constantly testing and refining the offering that we have. And we've been able to make a number of adjustments and also optimize our overall experience with our web platforms based on the exchanges that we're getting and the insights that we're getting from these conversations. And I believe it was last year we actually advanced an offering to extend it into the Spanish language Sophia offering as well. And again, we're continuing to build, test, and learn as we go. And that's another piece of the emerging technology aspect, is that you've got to constantly go back and test and refine, because things are always changing and customer needs are always changing. So you got to make sure that if you've solved the problem for today, that problem might change over time. You got to make sure that your solution is meeting that that problem in the future as well. And so, kind of going back to the earlier question that was raised, with these technologies, make sure that as you're applying them, that you're really talking to people that will be using them, that need them, and have the problem that you're trying to solve. And that's where I would kind of close with, the same statement that I opened the case study with. It's not, medication alone doesn't solve the problem. The addition of technology isn't going to do it either. We've got to marry up the human piece too, and the end user piece. What is their problem to solve? And then bring those other things together in order to have a very successful solution that delivers the shared value for the customer, and society, and a business, if that's what you if you're in from a business standpoint. I'd just like to say thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope that it was insightful and helpful to folks, and happy to continue the conversation outside of this as well.
That's great. Well, thank you. Is there any question for Amy before we let Amy go? One question, Dana, coming from Dana, if they have a follow-up question, what is the best way to reach out to you?
Sure, I can send a follow. I mean, Christine, if you, I don't know how you
send an email to me, and then
you can send, and I'm also on LinkedIn if you want to reach out to me through LinkedIn as well.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, thank you. Thanks everybody. I'll reach out.
Thanks so much. Everyone stay well.
Okay, bye. Thank you.